Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dangan Werewolf video series. Some of you might be coming from our little tutorial game that we played. And after that, we decided to come here to the roll board and introduce you to some of the intricacies of building proper roll balance, what some of the rolls do, how to play them, how to best be the power hope rolls and power despair rolls, because there is a lot of stuff to learn. But with me here is the headmaster from the last game.
Hello, my name is Cesarino, also is Drew, and I am the headmaster from the tutorial game, as Pulla said. And today, we'll be going over some of our roles. So I think we should probably go ahead and start with a nice neutral.
Well, I think before we do that, we should talk about roll balance in general.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so this game is quite different from Mafia and Werewolf and those type of games in that the current current balance setup is that Hope side always needs to have two more cards on the table than Despair side. So you would go 4-2, 5-3, 6-4, or some such thing. In cases of odd number tables, we have neutrals, which you would still keep the balance of two more hopes than despair, but you'd throw in the neutral to balance things out. And then that leads us into what neutral cards are, because we didn't see them in the game. Let's start off with an easy one.
I think I'll get a student council real quick.
Yeah, here it is. So you want to talk about student council, Drew?
Yeah, of course. So the student council is a fairly common neutral. It's usually run. So basically, what they're gonna do is every single night they're going to wake up and check a player similar to the alter ego, but they will not get the result. This roll appears on the side of hope, and it reveals when they die. It always reveals when they die. And they also always vote for themselves in Clash trials. So an example of how this would work is Pulla here, our Hiyoko. Oh, I just popped it on her head. I'm so sorry. Pulla, who is our student council, first night goes and visits Masaru. And now, the headmaster, Mr. Monokuma, keeps track of who's been visited by the student council. The same night, too, he visits Kodako, which is our Blackened. Well, it seems that the win condition will be achieved. And, our student council will ascend into the Divine Student Council. They instantly die the next morning. However, you may think, now that Hiyoko's dead, what's the point of even ascending? Well, unlike a lot of roles, the student council actually still gets to do their ability even post mortem. So the Divine Student Council already is won when they're in the state and they already die. It does not count towards the Blackened's kill count unless the Blackened kills them on the same day. And something that we keep in mind when we're talking about this role is it can only vote for themselves.
Right.
So
all the neutrals have different kind of voting restrictions on them because they're supposed to be neutral cards and they're supposed to be keeping the balance of voting between hope and despair. So in this case,
big thing,
the student council can only vote for itself. And that means when you're playing the student council, you don't really want to claim unless you absolutely have to.
This is a general pattern for most neutral roles, as they won't really have a way to defend themselves. And keep in mind that, if Hope side has no better target to choose from on their first or second trial, there's nothing stopping them from going and killing the suspected neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, at the end of the day, whenever the student council ascends, there's no way that Hope side is able to know if they're going to help or hurt Hope. So,
right. You are truly neutral in this case. You could help Hope side or you could help Despair side, but in general, you don't have too much sway. But when we're talking about items, there are some swing items that could be drawn.
Super Strategy Guide, Despair Bats, Shard of Hope, all sorts of things. So I think that pretty much covers up the student council. Let's go ahead, let me move out of the way, and talk about our lurker. Lurker is probably one of my favorite. More knocking over by a tiny little demon hunter. So the Lurker is a bit of a unique role. So remember how we said that a lot of or almost all the neutrals, if not all of them, have some form of voting restriction. This is the one when you look at the voting that has to do with the fake votes. A fake vote tallies as a normal vote, but it doesn't actually vote for someone. So the Lurker can only cast fake votes. They appear on Despair, and their neutral-sided roll. So their victory condition is to perform X number of roll actions, and well, we'll get to the roll actions in a second. Which X equals the number of kills the Blackened needs to win. So if it's a 10-player game, they need to do 3 of these actions. If it's a 6 to 8-player game, it's 2 actions. If it's a 5-player game, they only need to do it once. So some of these actions are like swap an item card with swap someone's item card with someone else's. So maybe Nagisa, the Lurker, takes Monika's item, this Robo Justice, and swaps it with it swaps Masaru's Despair Bat for Monika's Robo Justice, and so the two trade. So that's one of the main abilities. Another one is that they can deal an item card from the direct to someone's hand. So maybe Nagisa can choose, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give an item card to Kodako. And then finally, our one is the opposite of that, which is take a card or discard a card from someone, which if maybe we don't want Monika having a Robo Justice, that goes away to somewhere else. Now, you may notice something at the top of it that says the alter ego cannot investigate the same day you are murdered and investigates twice on the same day you are punished. So this is a role you definitely do not want to try and claim, as it will help either side. At least definitely not early. Maybe in third trial it might be safe to claim as they're focusing on Blackened, but the big thing is both sides will be rewarded if they manage to kill you.
Right. Like so if you were to claim this very early, and Hopeside doesn't have any better ideas, and Blackened wants to make sure the alter ego doesn't get as many investigations while they can try to suss out who they are and kill them, you'll probably be a target for somebody. Now, as the game continues, both sides are probably going to be more interested in fighting each other than you, so you could potentially claim.
So yeah, just something to keep in mind for this. Like I said, the day you are punished, meaning you're voted for in the class trial, alter ego gets 2 investigations, and the day you are murdered, then alter ego gets none. So it's a pretty fun role, pretty simple. And let's move on.
Yep. Opportunist is a strange one. This is a role that's mainly designed to give players a chance to play with a neutral on even number tables, because their whole thing is that the first time someone is killed by the Blackened, whether the role revealed or not, that role card will be swapped with this one at nighttime. So you basically become the first role that was killed.
So an example of this is, let's say Masaru are innocent, and let's say Monika is the opportunist. Hiyoko goes and kills...
I'll make it so Hiyoko can kill him.
Yeah, don't worry. I can do it this time.
No, it's...
but yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, so Masaru was killed, and what's going to happen is, because the first time someone is killed by the Blackened, Monika's roll card is going to swap with Masaru's.
That's going to happen at night after the trial.
It's going to happen, after the night after that trial.
Yeah,
so something to keep in mind about this
fake votes.
Yeah. Opportunist does not reveal on death. So let's say Masaru is the opportunist and they die again. Or they die.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Masaru's death, this role does not reveal, but this still trades with nothing.
Right, so the only way to truly lose as the opportunist is to get killed first.
Yes. After that, you just got to basically fulfill your old condition.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty versatile. It's usually run in situations where you want 2 neutrals. So, yeah.
Yeah, because some of the neutral cards, they are made for balance, but some of them are quite fun. Like Demon Hunting here, and in fact, these are all Demon Hunting tokens that we're using for examples. The Demon Hunter, their voting restriction is kind of tied to their ability. So let's say that Hiyoko is a player here, and I am the demon hunter. I have chosen Hiyoko as the demon. So the demon is who you want to be punished in a class trial. However, you can't vote for them. So the entire idea is that you need to put your token on who you think is most likely to be punished in the upcoming trial. And if you don't want to come out and claim, you can try and push people into voting for whoever is going to give you your win condition. Because once you reach your win condition, you reveal, and you become sort of like the Ascended Student Council.
At this point, you've already won, as it says in your victory condition. The difference with the Divine Student Council is you aren't killed, but instead you can no longer vote or be targeted by the Blackened. And each day, here, give me just 1 second to grab us the player dice. A random player will be chosen to do what? They'll be given an item card, and you're basically just going to roll this to see who gets it. So in this case, yellow would get it. So whoever is seated at the yellow seat will get a random card.
Yellow.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the thing is, even these tokens are still moved around, even after you win. And what's good about this is every single time that a demon that you mark dies, a random player again will be given a card. So in this case, Red Masaru will go ahead and get a card. Something to keep in mind though is that whoever your demon is swaps every night. So let's say first night Nagisa marks Hiyoko as the demon, but night 2 he marks Masaru. Hyoko's no longer a demon unless this token marks them as that.
Right, and
that's something to keep in mind.
Can you keep it on the same person? I think you have to move it. Let's see.
No, it says you can just keep it on another living player.
Okay, so you can keep it on whoever. So if you really think that Monika's going to get punished at some point in the game, you can just keep it on her the whole time.
Pretty fun roll. Your votes are kind of against your voting condition, your voting victory condition, but that's kind of the balance at it.
Right, and we'll talk about kind of the interplay between voting restrictions when we get done talking about the steering director, which is probably one of the more popular neutrals, because they have kind of I think they have the most effect on the table.
Oh, didn't mean to grab that rule.
Let's see.
So what you're going to go ahead and notice is, according to the steering director, at night 0, you go or choose as many other players equal to the number of kills. So if it's a 10-player game, you, as the steering director, will choose 3 other players. In a 6 to 8-player game, you'll choose 2 others. In a 5-player game, you'll choose 1 other. So,
right. So the most you'll have is 4, right?
The most you'll ever have is 4, because you yourself always get 1.
Right. So this all happens at night. Whoever has a cultivation plan, you know that one of them is the steering director. And the thing that the steering director wants to happen is they want the game to end while at least one other person besides them with a steering plan is still alive. But their voting condition is that during trials they have to vote for somebody who has a plan.
If you go ahead and look at the Hope cultivation plans here, you'll see that these are activated whenever the recipient of these plans is attacked. So let's say Kodako, our Blackened, goes and attacks Nagisa. Well, now this plan flips, and all of these have different abilities. So when this one says is if the attack is negated, instead redirect it to the closest non-trustee to your right. Some other ones we have are like trustees may pass each other items at any time. We have ones the Blackens cannot attack trustees tomorrow night. The trustees cannot claim to be the director today. And the other 2 that we have are if you're killed today, you can vote for a non-trustee during the trial, and all trustees draw 1 item card. So in a 10-player game, you would get 4 out of these 6 plans. The other 2 are just kept over here. And once these plans are flipped, they do not go back under. They're not replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the steering director. Like we said, they can only vote for their trustees, and as long as any of the number of people that they picked survive, they win the game. That does not include themselves. So the
Right.
steering director can still win even if they die.
Right. In fact, one of the strategies of steering director is to try to get yourself out of the game as quick as possible, because then, well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you don't have to vote for any of your trustees at that point, but you also can't sway anything that happens in the trial. Because if you are using a strategy where you stick around and influence the trial, then you can't push on anyone else if somebody happens to be casting suspicion on one of your trustees.
All right, so I believe now we've covered all of the neutral roles, and I
We've
believe
covered all
we
the
can
neutral
go ahead
roles,
and...
but I do want to talk a little bit about the voting restrictions on neutrals and how they kind of play out during certain class trials. So, there are certain situations where it is okay for you to claim your role, because at that point, that will tell everybody what your voting restriction is, and if you have to vote for certain people. And you can actually talk to either Hope or Despair and try and maybe broker a deal where you get your win condition and it helps them out.
There's all sorts of different ways to play it, but yeah, you could. There's always a situation where the Blackened may want, maybe a Despair Center role wants an item card from the lurker, or maybe the steering director is spared because a lot of Despair has been chosen as the trustees, things like that.
Right.
All sorts of situations.
If Despair thinks that the votes can be manipulated, they might leave you alone or even defer to you for getting your win condition, which helps them get their win condition, or vice versa.
So, all right, I believe with that, now we can go ahead and touch on the Hope roles.
Yep, we've
So we
got
have
a
a
lot
vast
to go
variety.
over here.
I think let's start with our basic innocent.
Yeah, let's start there.
The innocent appears on, or is a Hope side of role. They appear on the side of Hope, and they unfortunately don't have any real ability. They don't really do much. They're just kind of there. Usually, you have at least like 1 to 2 innocents in a game.
2 is the standard number for most games.
2 is the standard, and there is one other state that we will go over later, which is the infected innocents, but that has to do with despair disease, which we will be touching upon later.
Mm-hmm. And let's just move all these over here, because that is involved there.
All right. I think the best one to go over next has to be our alter ego in all
They're
of
the
states.
opposite of the innocent. They are the premier power role for the Hope side.
Basically, your alter ego is your main source of information. Every single night, they get to investigate to see who a person appears on notes. For characters like, the Amnesiac or the Stepping Stone, despite being on Hope's side, they appear as despair. So if the alter ego, let's say, if Hiyoko here, the alter ego investigates Monica, the Amnesiac, Monica will appear on despair. Something to keep in mind here is there's a couple other states that are used for different sized games for alter ego. So to start off, we have our alter ego beta, which is a bit more complicated one that's usually used in 6 to 8 player games. So going with our example of Hiyoko being the alter ego. Give me 1 second. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. How it works is they first start by night 0, they investigate a base. So let's say she investigates Monica night 0, and then night 1, she investigates Nagisa. So what'll happen is the GM will say if these 2 people appear on the same side or different ones. So in the case between Nagisa and Monica, the GM will say no, those people do not appear on the same side, which means one of them shows on despair, one of them shows on hope. Now, something to keep in mind that's very important is the next night. Now, Nagisa will take the place of Monica, as Nagisa's role will be compared to whoever's being investigated the next night. So the previous vote is always the one that is, or not vote. The previous investigation is always the one that's compared to next. So now, Alter Ego Beta goes and checks Jotaro, and he sees that Nagisa and Jotaro are on different sides again. So that's pretty weird. Going back full circle on night, I think this would be
Yep.
three now.
Let's say that
Um,
you investigated Monica again.
you would see Jotaro and Monica appear on the same side. So that's basically how that works. So notice how the base for the investigations continually moves throughout the game based on who you last investigated.
Yep, it's a little more complex, but it is a kind of a fun way to play Ego a little bit differently.
Next, we have our
yeah.
alter ego alpha. They are Hope Citadel appears on Hope, and this is kind of like a downgraded version of our normal alter ego. The way it works is they don't wake up on night 0, but they wake up night 1. And on every night following a class trial, they will investigate a player. So they don't wake up on night 0, but you know how the Blackened attacks night 0? That day that the Blackened non-lethally attacks someone, they
That's
still
a
get that
successful
investigation.
attack, yeah.
That is a successful attack. That's
So
why
you
it says
might
wake
be
up on night
you might be
1.
looking at this and thinking, well, this just seems like a weaker alter ego, and in fact, it is. It is exactly that. We use this for the smaller player games, 6 to 8 players, sometimes 9 players, sometimes even on 10-player tables, depending on how your other hope rolls are looking. Because sometimes you don't want an ego that's too powerful. But I would recommend trying all of them out, seeing which ones you like the best. The main reason that this one was introduced is because there are attack negations in Dangan Werewolf. And attack negations, when you have the full power alter ego on the table, can be very difficult for Despair. So maybe you want to give them a little bit of a boost, and if you have an attack negation, you don't get an additional alter ego investigation, but you still get the extra discussion time where you can logically talk about things and figure out who's who.
So yeah, alter ego has one final state, which is the sun state, but we'll be talking about that when we get to one of our despair-sided rolls.
Yep.
Pretty simple one to go over next that's already on the table for us is the Amnesiac. The Amnesiac is a hope-sided roll that appears on Despair. They are similar to the Innocent in the sense that they do not have an ability, but they do show on Despair, which is the important thing, as a lot of Despair players will go and claim this role to protect themselves. So Jotaro the Blackened might, go and claim or counterclaim the Amnesiac from Monica. So that would be a way that you know who is and isn't Despair in the case of counterclaims. This role was basically introduced to maybe just give situations where Despair would have a bit of a leg up. Important thing about Amnesiac is it also does not reveal in death, like an Innocent.
There are some additional Despair showing hopes on Hope's side, but most of these have some sort of condition or quirk that allows the table to logically figure out who they are really. This one does not. This one is purely about what you do during the game. So if you're Amnesiac and you want to prove that you are on Hope's side, try to do as many hopeful things as you can.
I think probably next is going to be our Future Foundation, and I'll let you do that one.
Yep. The Future Foundation is a roll card that gets a benefit when it dies. It reveals the roll, and then it chooses 3 other players to draw an item card. So I'm going to be bringing up cards that quote-unquote want to die. And when I say that, I want everyone to kind of remember that at the end of the day, Hope wants a Despair to be killed. The most ideal thing that a Hope player can do is get a Despair killed, but if they can't do that, then taking the bullet for a more important Hope roll, like say the Alter Ego, let's say that you were on the right of the Alter Ego and you could redirect the attack onto yourself, that is absolutely a very good play, because you dying instead of them is better for Hope than them dying and not you.
It's pretty simple in its effects, as when they die, they reveal and they choose 3 other players, and they can choose to give them 1 card. Note that this can also be used on dead people, so if you want to maybe try avoid giving the 3 suspected Despairs over here, you could choose, well, maybe dead Hiyoko, Masaru, and Monokuma. a card. Well, as long as Monokuma's not a headmaster, or is not the headmaster.
Right.
But for this situation,
But
assume
yeah.
that they're the player.
Yeah, if you are kind of worried about Despair's getting cards, you can give them to dead players. That's a fair deal. Who should we do
So, yeah,
next?
I think Tagami.
Yeah, Tagami is a very popular one. So
One
in
of everyone's
Dangan Werewolf, there is no set card drawing period. So the only time people draw cards is when they use abilities or items that let them do that. But having a Tagami VIP on the board means that every night somebody can get a card. So you are introducing a little bit of card draw into the game. You don't go night 0, and you cannot give an item card to yourself, because otherwise you know you're on hope, so you would just give yourself cards.
What's important about this is that people who may try to counterclaim Tagami, such as, let's say, Monica is our Tagami and Kodako is claiming Tagami, there's a reason. The way you can disprove this is you could just give them an item card, and once you do that, well, it knocks Kodako out of the park.
Because the
'Cause now
Tagami
it's
VIP
impossible for
cannot
Tagami
give
to give it.
themselves an item card, so you've disproven Kotoko's claim.
It's also a despairful strategy to try and get the Tagami to give you cards, as that would mean that you're stopping a potential hope-sided roll from getting a card, and you yourself are drawing one that might be useful.
Right, so if the Tagami VIP gave you a despair bet to try and disprove your counterclaim, well, I suppose you'd be voted out in the next trial regardless, but you'd still probably want to use it.
Still really good for despair
Yeah,
side.
it takes away time for people to discuss other things.
So yeah, Tagami appears on hope, is a hope-sided roll, and reveals on death. Pretty simple one, pretty beloved one. Let's do... you want to do Monami, or do you want to do Ultimate Hope next?
Let's do Monami now that we're talking about revealing on death.
So Monami is an interesting role. So the way that it works is, let's say that in a situation where we have Nagisa, our Tagami VIP, has been attacked by Jotaro, our Blackened. Well, Monica, the Monami, can choose to reveal this card and take the place of death for Nagisa. What's important about this is that normally this roll does not reveal on death. So if Jotaro naturally chooses Monica to be killed, this roll will not reveal on her death. The only time it reveals is if they're taking the place of the Blackened stack. So what's really important about this roll is not only if you're under suspicion, you can confirm yourself by taking the blow, but you also might be saving someone like the alter ego. The double-edged sword of this is that you might potentially be saving a despair-sided roll, which could be really painful for death. Or not death, for hope.
So let's say that Nagisa has made the brilliant big brain play of attacking themselves, which is something the Blackened can do. If no one else plays any items or abilities, they could die, but the Monami can reveal itself and take their place. Now, not only have you saved the despair, but you've made Nagisa, who's the Blackened, look really good, because then he can make the argument that he was about to be killed, so he couldn't be the Blackened.
When Monami saved his life.
So it is a little bit of a mind game.
But it's pretty powerful for hope in order to save another important hope-sided roll. Hope-side roll.
The best place to use it is on a confirmed alter ego.
I think I'll let you do Ultimate Hope.
Yeah. Ultimate Hope is kind of a pseudo-investigation roll. Depending on the roll setups, they are a little bit weaker or a little bit stronger, but they're similar to the Crow from Raging Loop. The first time a player dies, if the roll didn't reveal on death, the headmaster will whisper to you what their roll was. So in most situations, you'll be catching either innocents or traitors. Let's say that Nagisa's the innocent, Jataro's the traitor, and Masaru is the Blackened. He has decided to attack Nagisa because he doesn't like him. Their roll doesn't reveal, and the Ultimate Hope will know that an innocent died. Likewise, if Jotaro was attacked, Ultimate Hope would know the traitor was dead, and they absolutely want to reveal that, because not only does that demoralize the Blackened, because they team killed, but it gives Hope a lot of information.
Important things about this role: it does not reveal on death, and let's say it's a situation where Master the Tagami VIP has been killed by Kodako the Blackened. Well, Ultimate Hope's ability won't activate on a roll that obviously reveals, and it's only the first time that someone is killed.
Right.
So it's important to keep that in mind.
So at that point, you're just a little bit of a different innocent, but you're still a different role, so counterclaiming stuff can happen.
I think we should continue the idea of pseudo investigation roles and talk about one of our first despairing, or our second despair showing hope, and talk about the World Ender. The World Ender is usually ran in smaller games, like 6 to 8 player games, and they start the game knowing one hope-sided role. So they might know that Jotaro is on the side of hope. Note that the World Ender doesn't know what the role is. They just know that this person is on Hope's side.
Yep.
So the GM gets to choose which role it is. So it could be maybe Kodako the innocent, or it could be Monica the alter ego. Alter ego usually isn't run with World Ender, but you get the point.
Yeah.
But
I was about to say, the setup for this role is you can run this with no ego, so that this is your investigation role. Or you could run it with one of the weaker egos if you want to give Hope a little bit of a boost. Try experimenting with it and see what roles setups you like best with it. But one of the important things about the World Ender is that they have a condition that can help everybody figure out who they are. You can see that you cannot play night items unless another effect forces you to. And in fact, there's a second state to this card, which has a big old Tsumugi on it that says you cannot play night items. This is to help the player remember this, because sometimes they forget. So let's say a counterclaim happens, because this card does appear on Despair. Let's say that Masaru's claiming it, and Kotoko's claiming it, and they're both getting heated, and nobody can figure out. But Monika's smart, and Monica remembers that Kodako played a nighttime item. She played a Robot Justice, which is a hope-sided maneuver, but because she did that, she can't possibly be the World Ender, because the World Ender is not allowed to do that. So this counterclaim has been figured out through the power of friendship.
It's usually good to get rid of, or potentially, if you have any nighttime items that could be passed, or have an ability that lets you discard items, it's usually a better or good idea to get rid of those if you are the World Ender. And if a situation happens where the Game Master, maybe, Monica could act a little bit dumb and forgets that maybe he forgets that the World Ender is not able to it, and lets Monica or Kodako actually play that Robo Justice. Well, it's kind of, now that Kodako even attempted to, she may face the repercussions of that in the trial, where everyone may be like, well, I don't believe you, Kodako, because you played a nighttime item, or you played a nighttime item.
But Monokuma let me.
Well, that's not my problem. You tried to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where, as a GM, you need to figure out what you want to do. I think the best thing to do is, if they break the rule and they forget, don't call them on it. Let them suffer the repercussions of their actions.
Alrighty.
Who next?
Probably move. I think Observer, and then we can start getting into probably to these two over here.
Right,
once we
because they
take
do
talk.
kind of want to die. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Observer. This is a little bit of a complex one because it involves whispering to GM. So let's say that Nagisa's the Observer. I'm just gonna have Nagisa be all the smart cards. The Observer.
He's a smart cookie.
Yeah, he is a smart cookie. Each night, except for 0, whisper to the headmaster the name of another living player. That player is targeted by. If that player is targeted by the Blackened's attack tonight, they will instantly be saved, and you will instantly die and reveal this card. You do not reveal on normal death, but you do not perform your roll action if you are dead. So let me go over what some of that stuff means. Let's say that we have an innocent here, and we've got the Blackened over here.
Real
So,
quick.
Yep.
Real quick. Just in case any of you forget, you can go and message your headmaster by typing /black and then the message in chat.
Yep.
So this is what you'll be doing every single time you go to bed. I'm going to type an example of this. Oh, I've fallen over. Without the period, if you look in chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I said Mead Master because I'm a silly bear who fell on his head.
So this is a role that can die and not reveal, but in this case the headmaster will keep calling for their action because it's whispered. Does that make sense? In other words,
it doesn't reveal.
Yeah, if it doesn't reveal, if they... I guess let's go over the example first before we get into this. So let's say that Nagisa thinks that Kodako is about to be attacked. And let's say Nagisa's right. Kodako was attacked, and then as everyone goes back to sleep, the headmaster will pick Kodako back up and knock Jotaro down and reveal his roll card. That means that the observer has revealed, protected Kodako, and that means Despair can't claim it anymore. So this is a very good thing for the observer to do.
It's very similar to Monami, as instead of choosing to reveal your role, you instead actively choose to whisper and choose someone to kind of protect. Other thing about this is you instantly die if you save someone. There's no way to play a Shard of Hope or anything. You are instantly dead. It's pretty similar to the bodyguard from Town of Salem, but the doctor isn't able to heal them when they fight. No, they don't fight off the attacker. They just protect them, I guess, is the best way to think of it.
But let's go through a couple other examples here. Let's say that he predicted that Kodako was going to be attacked, but instead he himself is attacked. His role doesn't reveal in that case, and the headmaster will continue to call for the observer to whisper their target to give Despair a chance to keep claiming the role.
Something to keep in mind is if you are normally attacked, you could play items to save yourself there. You can just not, only time you can't is if you actually save them and reveal your card.
Right. Now let's go through one more example. Let's say that Monica picked Kodako and Jotaro actually picked Masaru. But let's say a redirection item was played, Amulet of Buddha, and then Kodako became the target. In this situation, since the attack was redirected in the morning, the observer effect doesn't go off. It is only during the night if the Blackened picks that target.
A little bit more complicated one, but it's definitely a more powerful one.
Mm-hmm. And very fun, too.
Very fun to try and guess who's going to live and who's going to die.
The Blackened doesn't have to guess.
Well, yes, but speaking of roles that want to die,
right.
The Stepping Stone and the Reserve Student.
Wow, what a pair. What a pair, I just realized that.
So, the Stepping Stone, as you was a role that was actually used in our
tutorial game, yeah.
The tutorial game, yes. Its ability is it only reveals if it's killed by the Blackened. So if the Stepping Stone goes and gets lynched in the trial, the role does not reveal. They appear on Hope's side, or they appear on Despair's side, and their Hope-sided role. And during the next class trial, whenever it may be, it should be the same day, 2 minutes will be added to discussion, and if someone like Monica tried to play Despair Bat, you could say, nope, that's not allowed. I'm not letting that happen.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about roles that want to die, I would say this is the prime example of a role that really, really wants to die. Specifically, they want to be killed by the Blackened. Because not only do they reveal, they can aid the class trial, and there's no longer a hope showing Despair. Well, this is a hope showing Despair that the Blackened can't claim anymore. So the best thing that you can do is try to actively trick the Blackened into attacking you. But you might not want to be too obvious about it. Let's say that Masaru has the idea of getting the Blackened's attention. He might do something like claim the alter ego early, or intentionally empty his item card hand so that the Blackened can see that he doesn't have anything in his hands. Or he could just do something that brings attention to himself on the table. That way, the Blackened, if they aren't sure who to attack, they might just attack whoever had the loudest voice or whoever got the most attention that day.
On the other side of it, we have the reserve corps students. Similar to the stepping stone, their role only reveals when they are killed by the Blackened, except they appear on the side of Hope, and they're also on Hope's side. So when they're killed by the Blackened, the alter ego will get 2 investigations instead of 1.
Can be very good during the early game. As the game goes on, there's less value in it because there have been situations where the alter ego is not useful anymore because they've gotten all the information that they can get.
Or they're dead.
Yeah, if they're dead, then yeah, you don't want to do this. So, compared to the stepping stone, I would say this is a role that still gets a benefit when it dies, but the fact that it doesn't appear on despair and can be in different use, I suppose more useful or less useful in certain situations, means it's a little bit less aggressive than the stepping stone, but the basic idea is still the same.
Alrighty. I think we're going to go and take it a little bit down and talk about our therapist, keeping the theme with roles that may not always reveal. Actually, no, that's not a good way to phrase it. So
this one actually doesn't reveal ever.
Doesn't reveal ever. So this is basically kind of like a little bit of a stronger innocence. The therapist has the ability of giving out therapy. Using the player dice from earlier when we talked about the Demon Hunter and the Warriors of Hope, every single night this roll will be this dice will be rolled by the GM. And wow, yellow, Kyoko, how lucky. So in this case, this thing will be put over Hyoko's character card or near it to signify that she has the therapy token. Meaning that at any period, she should be able to discard a card and let someone like Kodako draw a card. So maybe if she feels nice enough to get rid of a despair bat or something that she doesn't want, like a tumbleweed, maybe she'll let Kodako draw a card. So this could be pretty useful for signaling. But something that's more important about this role is that this action continues even when the therapist dies.
Right. So by choosing to have the therapist on the table, the therapy token is in the game for real. It's a little bit less interactive than some of the other Hope roles because you don't have control over where the token goes. But it's also handy for it to be constantly on the table. And it is something different to claim than innocent.
It does continue with the theme of card cycle, but it's not nearly as powerful as roles like Future Foundation or Tagami.
Let's do this one, Lost Traveler.
Lost Traveler's a fun one. Let me get the player dice out of there for you.
Right. So Lost Traveler is a Hope showing despair where they're investigated by the alter ego. They will be changed into the new student, and the new student appears on Hope. They see that their role changes when they wake up in the morning, and their condition is they cannot play any morning abilities or items unless another effect forces them to. So this is another situation kind of similar to the World Ender, where they have a weird item playing mechanic that can help you figure out who they are, and the state of the role changing can help you figure out who the alter ego is. Do you want to run through an example?
Yeah, I was just grabbing this for you. I was just grabbing this actually for you.
Thanks.
So in our case here, we have Nagisa, again, our smart cookie, our favorite, as the alter ego. So let's say Kodako is claiming the Lost Traveler, and remember that the Lost Traveler and his student don't reveal on death, but Lost Traveler does show on despair. So let's say Nagisa's like, I don't know about that Kodako girl, and investigates her. Well, her state will be changed, and now she appears on Hope. But now Kodako could say, hey, I turned in a new student. And well, if Nagisa says, hey, well, I investigated you, these two have almost confirmed each other in a way of saying, hey, I know that this is new student, and I know that this is alter ego. It is also very easy for Despair, like Blackened or Traitor, for one of them to claim alter ego and one of them to claim new students to emulate this sort of behavior.
Right.
I'll let you handle that.
Another pitfall that you have to worry about is if the alter ego happens to claim their investigation first, even though you're actually the new student now and you were investigated, if you say it after, Nagisa might not believe you. Especially if somebody like the Traitor comes out and says, well, that's not true, I'm still the Lost Traveler.
So yeah, you can see combos like Blackened Traitor as like, Traitor can say, hey, I'm the new student, or not new student, lost traveler, and that Jotaro could potentially pick that up as a signal and say, oh, well, I'm going to investigate you tonight, and then maybe Masaru will say, okay, and the next day, maybe he claims new students, and then this could potentially confirm the Blackened or another Despair-sided role as the ego, which is not good for Hope.
Right, and it's actually interesting that you bring that up, because it goes over something that we kind of talked about earlier, where the best way to Despair, or the best way for Despair to play, is that one person needs to start the lie, and another person has to pick the lie up. So, for example, if Masaru claims Lost Traveler, or actually claims that they changed to New Student, that's a very bold claim. And if no other Despair picks up that lie and says, yeah, I'm the alter ego and I investigated you, Masaru just looks like a big old liar, and he'll likely get voted out.
So yeah, the issue with never counterclaiming or lying as Despair means that if alter ego ever gets momentum and they're never contested, the power that alter ego will get is that everyone at the table will believe them. And if someone shows up Despair, well, it basically means you can kiss Jotaro and Masaru's gone.
Right. We'll go over this a little bit more detail once we start getting into Despair roles. But for now, just remember that if the alter ego is not contested, they will rule the table, and the only option at that point is for the Blackened to try and kill them.
And Despair might lose.
Mm-hmm.
Very possible.
Right.
All right. That's our Lost Traveler. I think it's time we let a stranger show up.
Hey there, stranger. Who's the stranger? Monica's the stranger this time. Okay, so this is another role that the Blackened doesn't really want to attack, similar to the Reserve Course or the Stepping Stone. If they're targeted by the Blackened while they're asleep, the attack is instantly negated, and then the card becomes the protagonist, and then as everyone's asleep, the headmaster will say the protagonist has appeared, and the state changes to the second state here. As the protagonist, when you wake up and this happens, you can give a card to or discard a card from a player hand, and you can do this 3 times in any way that you like. So let's say we've got Hiyoko, Kotoko, and Nagisa over here. You could give 1 card to each as the protagonist. You could give 2 to Hiyoko and 1 to Nagisa. You could give 1 to Kotoko and discard 2 from these 2 here. You can do it in any combination that you want. You could even give all 3 cards to Hiyoko, or even yourself. But that might make you look pretty obvious. The entire idea behind the card is that nobody knows who was attacked that night because the attack is instantly negated. So the Blackened will know who you are, but nobody else will.
Something to keep in mind is if the Blackened tries to kill you again, you get to use your ability once more. But your negate doesn't happen. That's only something from the stranger.
Right.
Not the protagonist.
So depending
and of course,
on
we show on Hope and Die reveal. You reveal on
yeah, you do reveal at that point. So depending on at what point in the game this all happens, let's say that Jotaro managed to hit Monica, the protagonist, or the stranger, the very first attack. The Night Zero attack, which isn't even supposed to be lethal. Monica instantly transforms into the protagonist, and now Jotaro knows a Hope-sided player. It may actually be a good play for Jotaro to hit the protagonist again, because at that early in the game, the protagonist might not know who their teammates are. So their card draw and card discard might not be used as effectively. And for the first attack, the Blackened doesn't win a team kill, so it's actually pretty likely that they'll just go for the one that's the sure hit, even though they do card stuff.
So yeah, the protagonist is a pretty fun role. It's pretty different, and it's an interesting way to play. I think we should go over this is easily my favorite role, the Master Program. So the Master Program is a Hope-sided role, and it appears on the side of Hope, and it comes with something known as the Command Deck. So every single night, they get to choose a player, well, every single night except for Night Zero, sorry. They get to choose a person to give the deck to. And what that means is that all 4 of these cards are going to be flipped over, Actually, I should probably group them together. So let's say Kodako is chosen to have the deck played on them. Well, this is going to be shuffled and flipped, and then ability is going to happen. So what this basically says is, if you are the target of the Blackened's attack, negate that attack. If you are not the target, you cannot be attacked. So that's pretty good. But let's say Monica was attacked and not Kodako. This will still flip over. This effect still happens, regardless of who the Blackened's attack is. The effects we have are Fujisaki mode, which negates the attack or gives them like an effect similar to a Robo Justice. Lets a character drop to hand limit. If they have no hand limit, then they just simply draw one card. If they have a single use ability, then it's refreshed. If they don't have a single use ability, they draw one card. And then voice enable voice. So if they are dead, or if they are dying that day, if you normally cannot speak in any discussion periods, now you can do that. So let's say Monica is attacked and she flips over that voice command. Well, that means that for that day, she gets to talk. Of course, Master Program, I don't believe, they cannot put the program deck on themselves.
Right.
And the console that they get is always random. And even let's say Kodako gets to give item command. It's also possible for the next night, if Monica has this, to also get them. So once these commands are used, it's not like the steering director plans where they're exhausted.
Right, it's an actual deck. So in function, when the master program wakes up, they put the deck face down next to a player, give it a shuffle, and then the Blackened makes their attack. Let's say that Monica is a high value target. She's claiming alter ego, and the alter ego, Blackened wants them off the board. So even though they have this deck, they're going to take the risk and attack her. Then in the morning, if no one else plays anything, give it a shuffle, flip it over, enable voice. Wow, Jotaro, your plan backfired. Now not only do they reveal as the alter ego, they can reveal all their investigations and nobody can argue against them.
Pretty bad for despair there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Master Program is... Oh, I'm so sorry, Jotaro. It's definitely one of the more powerful Hope roles, and it's very fun. I love playing Master Program. It's just such a fun role. All right, I think we finally got to talk about... I'll let you handle them. I think you can explain this one much better than I can.
Okay, yeah. So the Enigma is a Hope role that can be used sort of in the place of a Hope showing Despair, because sometimes it shows on Despair and sometimes it doesn't. Each night, whisper the headmaster the name of another player. You will appear to be their role tonight for any type of investigation. You may not choose the same person twice in a row. So let's say that on night 0, the Enigma chose to appear as Jotaro, who's the Blackened. And then the alter ego investigated them. Because Enigma picked the Blackened, the Enigma is going to show on the side of Despair. So Monica is obviously going to call this out, saying, hey, Kodako appears on Despair. Kodako can make the argument, well, I picked Jotaro. That means he's actually on Despair. Now, keep in mind that Despair players can also make use of the same tactic. Let's say that Monica actually Monica's still investigating the... Oh, wait, no. Yeah, investigating Masaru. And Monica's going to say that Masaru appears on Despair, and Masaru is going to panic and say, well, actually, I'm the Enigma, and I picked Kodako, so that means she's actually on Despair. So it's all about who can make a more convincing argument.
So yeah, they don't reveal on death, and they also decide that the Enigma appears on only appears as what the role appears. So for an example of Amnesiac, the Enigma, if Kodako, the Enigma chooses them, well, she'll appear as this side of Despair, despite the Amnesiac being a hope-sided role, but it's because they appear as Despair.
And then one other kind of interaction to note, let's say that Hiyoko was just an innocent, and the Enigma picked them. And let's say that Nagisa, being a smart cookie, played an item that detects innocence. If Nagisa played it on Kotoko, since she chose to appear as Hiyoko, who's the innocent, the investigation item will tell Nagisa that Enigma is an innocent. And this is actually pretty good for Hope, because this confirms not only the Enigma, but the innocent, because it's unlikely that Despair would lie about something like that.
So yeah, pretty crazy a role, not seen nearly as common as you would think. Definitely an interesting one. I'm just gonna move these ones here because they might just be referenced throughout the game.
Yeah.
And of course, we keep our 2 bad guys.
Right.
Speaking
in fact,
of our
we start talking about the bad guys, yeah. And in fact, I think we should start with Traitor and Blackened because these two were intertwined.
They're the most, probably the most important Despair-sided roles that there are.
Right. So Blackened, of course, they get to kill somebody every night. They have a night 0 attack, which isn't lethal, and then they have lethal attacks every night past that. One thing to remember when you're the Blackened is that there's a lot of stuff on the table that can mess with your attacks. There are items that can straight up negate your attacks, which is the Shard of Hope. There are amulets of Buddha, which can redirect your target and make you attack people that you didn't necessarily want to. And there are items like Robo-Justices and other protection items that make it so you can't target the people that you might want to. And that seems like a lot of pressure, but just do your best. And as a general rule, sometimes you may want to play passively and sometimes you might not.
Something to keep in mind is that people will try to signal for you, so always be on the lookout on who your fellow Despair-sided roles are, as what you want to desperately avoid, what the Hope side wants you to do, is to team kill. And there's a lot of items, Amulet of Buddha, which could let you team kill, or in some cases even kill yourself. So you'd better think twice about what your choice is. And playing Blackened is probably one of the harder things to do in this game, as you're directly responsible for your team winning. So just try to be more aware about what could and could not be a signal. Try to keep your mind open. Try to always be planning out who might be important, who's soft claiming, who's hard claiming. Keep in mind the counter claims, as you know, you might just want to try and fight through it yourself. Sometimes you want to be active and claim alter ego. Sometimes you want to shut up and let your traitor do the work.
Right. So another thing to kind of think about when you're the Blackened is that the traitor knows who you are. You have your other Despair buddies on the table, but you don't know who anybody else is. So you need to be on the lookout for people that are doing kind of odd things. For example, let's say that Masaru plays a Robo-Justice on Jotaro out of nowhere. Jotaro didn't even claim to be an important role, and Masaru protected him. That is a hope-sided action, playing Robo-Justices, but the fact that he played it on Jotaro is a little suspicious and something Jotaro might want to take note of. Another thing that can be done to signal is we have the day 1 discussion after the non-lethal attack, where a lot of people are kind of milling about, doing this or that, maybe not claiming, maybe not strategizing, maybe they're just having a lot of fun. If Masaru is hanging around and being buddy-buddy with the Blackened and interacting with them, that could be a signal. But maybe Kodako is also over here interacting with Jotaro just because she likes him. She's not actually on his team, but Jotaro has to figure out what these signals mean.
So yeah, general strategy for Despair as a whole is that, like Paula said earlier, it's some person needs to start the lie, and other people definitely need to back it up. Otherwise, you're sometimes, if you're playing more of a supportive Despair role, like Traitor or some of the other runs we're gonna go over, is take the fall. Like, you know,
absolutely. If you are not the Blackened and you're on Despair, your goal is to basically take the bullet for them.
It may hurt to know that you aren't in the game and you can't play and you may lose your vote. However, if this person dies, the entire game is over. So there's no hope if the Blackened dies. And there's cases where, you know, you get unlucky and the ego checks you night 1, and they're gonna start pushing your Blackened in the trial. You got to counterclaim. You are required to counterclaim,
right?
Or maybe let your Blackened do so to try and save their life, to cause chaos.
Right. I guess this is a good time to bring up alter ego counterclaims. So the number one thing that Despair needs to do is counterclaim the alter ego. And counterclaiming the alter ego can be a scary thing, especially if the alter ego is smart like Nagisa. Because if nobody claims if nobody counterclaims Alter Ego is going to just start revealing information. And you can't wait until the second or third trial to try and argue against it, because at that point people aren't going to believe you. And if you're doing things like that, you're kind of relying on RNG, voting items, and other kind of stuff to win the game, which can happen, but it's not reliable.
So yeah, a lot of despair side of play between Trader and Blackened is just learning how to play. There's a bit of a learning curve there, and this just goes for the game as a whole. With experience, it'll definitely get better, but our purpose here is just to give a bit of an overview of what to do in these situations.
And one thing to point out, kind of a newbie trader mistake. Let's say that you want to be an active trader and you want to support your Blackened the best that you can. Let's say that Kotoko's the Blackened and Masaru's trader. Let's say Masaru is hovering over the Blackened, being buddy-buddy, giving them items and putting out all sorts of signals to the Blackened. And let's say that the Alter Ego investigates Masaru and sees them on the side of despair. And let's say they're confirmed despair at some point. The fact that this was acting super nice to Kotoko, even if they get voted off, and even if Nagisa never even investigated Kotoko, the fact that this was signaling so hard to this can suggest to people that they were actually traitor and they were signaling to their Blackened. So they may vote you off on principle.
So yeah, be careful the fact of when you're signaling, because there's always the possibility that if you're signaling, someone can pick up on it. And if that happens, it potentially means you're doomed.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that you can do is the Blackened, and something that I've seen people do. Let's say that Masaru is going to claim the Alter Ego, and Masaru wants to clear Kotoko's name and say, well, she's on hope. She's clearly good. If Kotoko isn't quite sure how this is going to pan out, she can immediately claim, well, no, that's impossible. I'm a despair showing hope, and you're a fake Alter Ego claim. This is the Blackened intentionally throwing their own team member under the bus. And this can work out, because if they get voted off, and especially if they're a despair that reveals or can be confirmed as a traitor, this makes Kotoko look very good.
So yeah, that's general strategy for Trader Blackened. Mm-hmm. Both are very vital roles to the game, as though you can't really play the game without Blackened, and Traders nearly run almost every single game.
And this is by no means comprehensive. This is just stuff to get you started and stuff to think about.
I think a role that we can go ahead and talk about next is the Mole. The Mole was featured in our first one, and it goes alongside with our Trader and our Blackened. So basically, the general gist of this is, let's say Nagisa is such a genius that he figures out he checks Kotoko, and Kotoko can't really defend themselves. You know, they're frying in the oven. You know, and they get voted for, and the Blackened is dead. Well, actually, I'm gonna need that back. Well, now Jatsura the Mole becomes the Blackened, and they start doing the killings. Now, let's say it's a situation where Kotoko actually survives, and maybe, I don't know, Masaru gets killed or something in the trial. Well, now Kotoko gets to know, hey, or the GM will privately tell them, hey, Jatsura was the Mole, and they're on your side. So basically, as a reward for the Blackened surviving, the Blackened gets to know a confirmed despair-sided role that can help them. It's usually the Mole is usually used for insurance when you know you want a bit of a longer game and you don't want your Blackened to instantly die. It's very good to run with newer players.
Right. And then, in the most ideal of situations, the Trader would get Blackened or voted out in the first trial, and that would mean that an alive despair is confirmed to the Blackened, so they can avoid team killing this. And once two people know each other, then they can start kind of formulating their lies in their head. And if one person lies, the other person can pick it up. That's also something I wanted to point out. It's possible to run 2 Trader games. And in those games, 2 Traders can make some convincing lies if they both work together.
Also, something to keep in mind, Trader doesn't reveal and Mole also doesn't reveal.
Right.
But of course, Blackened does reveal on death.
Right, of course, because then the game's over.
So yeah, that's the Mole. I think maybe we touch on Dice.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Dice is literally the despair-sided Tagami VIP with one added benefit. So when every single this card reveals on death, and every single night they wake up, except for night 0, they wake up and they can either give a person an item card or they can make him discard one. So it's pretty simple. It's your despair Tagami with a little bit more oomph.
Right, and we talked about this earlier, where Tagami is a little bit difficult to claim, or fake claim actually, because the counterclaim can be broken by Tagami giving you an item, which you still get an item and you could get something pretty powerful, but it's still not ideal. However, if you're the Dice Agent, you can fake claim the Tagami, and the Tagami can't break the counterclaim by giving you an item, because then you could just give them an item right back. Nobody knows who's who.
Question, actually. It does not appear that Dice Agent says you cannot choose yourself.
That is correct. You can give yourself an item.
So unlike Tagami, if you have an item card you want to get rid of, or maybe your argument is, well, hey, Dice Agent's been targeting me a whole lot, I don't want, maybe I'm not the Dice Agent, that's a fair argument. Or if you just want to be greedy and give yourself items, you could potentially do that too.
But if you are claiming on, or if you're planning on claiming Tagami at any point, you shouldn't give yourself cards, because then you can't do that.
Alright. Keeping up with the theme of cards that are like another, we have the Glitched Ego, which is our buffed up alter ego. So this is kind of like the Consigliere from Town of Salem, as their despair-sided role that and by the way, almost all despair rolls show on despair except for one, but we'll talk about that one and mention that shows on hope usually. So instead of checking what side they appear on, the Glitched Ego actually gets to know what role they are. So,
right. So when the Glitched Ego wakes up, let's say they picked Masaru. They just reveal their alter ego role card at night, and only they can see it. So Glitched Ego knows who alter ego is, and let's say that alter ego investigated Glitched Ego. Alter ego knows that Glitched Ego is on despair, but not what their role is. Glitched Ego knows who the alter ego is, and this is... You can take this a couple different ways. Hitting the alter ego, especially early in the game, is pretty valuable, because one thing you can do is simply say, hey, whoever the Blackened is, this person's the alter ego, kill them. Earlier in the game might not be... it's a little risky, because then protection items can come out, and also people know that you're a despair. But if you think that the Blackened can successfully kill them, that's something that you can do. Or you can decide to counterclaim the alter ego, which is basically what you're designed for.
So yeah, Glitched Ego is a souped up version of alter ego. A lot of play here. This is one of the few roles that can actually counterclaim alter ego and actually directly go toe to toe. In other situations where maybe Jotaro is a traitor, it can just claim alter ego but doesn't necessarily have the greatest bases. Well, Glitched Ego actually has the ability to give pretty solid bases. Don't forget for roles like Despair Showing Hopes. You see their role, and don't forget that some of them show on the side of Despair.
Right.
As that can be a big...
when you're making fake claims as ego, one thing that you can do is... Well, actually, the safest thing you can do is call people on hope. The only situation where that's going to backfire is if you actually pick somebody who appears on despair, and they're instantly going to call out your lie. However, let's say that Nagisa picked Monica and sees the despair showing. They can make that claim, and it'll be a little more convincing. However, keep in mind that people are aware that there's a fake ego somewhere. Another thing you could do to make your claim a little bit more convincing is, let's say that you know that Masaru is the alter ego, and Masaru's been doing things that don't quite make sense. He's got big ideas, but he's not really doing hopeful things. He's playing weird items, or he's accusing people semi-randomly with little logic. Nagisa can point this out and suggest to everybody that Masaru is not behaving as hope-sided as an ego should be, and maybe even in the best situation, force people to vote them out.
So yeah, that is the Glitched Ego. I'll go ahead and pick.
Who do we want to do next? Let's do Ultimate Despair. That's a fun one.
I figured Ultimate.
So there are actually two versions of this card. One that shows on Despair constantly, and one that shows on Hope before somebody dies and then Despair. But they both do the same thing. And let's say that Kodako is actually Ultimate Despair this time, just like Big Sis Junko. Nagisa's Ego again, and Masaru is Blackened this time. So Ultimate Despair is a despair that wants to be punished in a class trial. That's actually their win condition. And they are similar to the Jester, but when they get voted, the game continues. And instead of the game ending, all hope-sided rolls will be skipped. So that night, no alter ego, no Togami, no any other hope roll that would wake up.
No master program, no nothing.
Mm-hmm. Depending on when this happens, this could be very bad for Hope or not really affect them at all. Let's say that the Ego has had a couple good investigations. They don't really care if they get skipped. Strategies for Ultimate Despair. Just, there are kind of two schools of thought on it. You could play sneaky and try to make yourself intentionally look a little bit suspicious so that people are comfortable voting for you. Or you could play aggressively and do overtly despairful things that will get in Hope's way and threaten to keep doing them unless they vote for you.
You also have the option of sometimes cutting a deal with Hope's side, as you could say, well, I want to do my win condition now, and if you don't get rid of me, I will be a thorn in your side for the entire game. Mm-hmm. As well. If be advised that if you don't get rid of the Ultimate Despair, that their win condition just becomes when the Blackened, or if you did it when the Blackened wins, so they just become a normal Despair-sided roll. So it's not necessarily a bad idea.
I think that might not be right. Their victory condition, if they died first, is when the Blackened wins.
That's right.
Right. So let's say if that wasn't there and they got killed first. Well, there's no way for them to be voted, so they can't win at all, and that's no fun. So, if they get killed first, then their victory condition is just when the Blackened wins. However, if they're not killed first, then their condition is they want to be voted.
So yeah, sometimes it's good to get a confirmed Despair side out of the way. Sometimes you might just want to let them be a thorn in your side, as they might not be able to get their win condition if the Blackened's keeping them alive, and you guys are keeping them alive.
Now, there is a item that searches specifically for them, so if you're lucky enough to confirm them as Ultimate Despair, you can at least not vote for them in a trial if you have better leads. If you have no other leads at all, then you may want to vote for them.
So yeah, I think that's all we have for Ultimate Despair. Usually this is used in, I think that this role works for most setups, regardless of big and small. Mm-hmm. Go crazy with. Mm-hmm. I think let's talk about Mono Cub Master.
This is a fun one.
This is a fun one. Not a crazy one, but a very fun one.
Right. So, the Mono Cub Master, they come with this special little trophy. When they die, they reveal, and each night they put the trophy over another player. That player is what is known as being bothered. And what bothered means is they cannot use their character ability, whether it's unlimited use, single use, or permanent. So let's say that Jotaro here had an ability that gave him a 3-hand limit, just like Kibo. If they're being bothered, well, his hand limit's now back to normal because his ability's shut off and he would have to discard. This can be very useful on characters that are like bodyguards, characters that can redirect attacks, characters that can combo card draw stuff. Just keep in mind who's on the table and what the Blackened's trying to do. But an important thing to note is that you have to move it to a different person each day, because it's no fun if one person gets their ability locked down for the entire game.
So yeah, something to keep in mind is that the Mono Cub Master can choose themselves to be bothered, and that could be an argument of saying, oh, Hiyoko was bothered, they may not be the Mono Cub Master, but you still have to move it from person to person every day. The Mono Cub Master also reveals on death.
Right.
So yeah. Pretty fun one, pretty simple one.
Keeping in line with the mono.
Monos.
Yep. This is kind of an interesting one. The Mana Beasts. They wake up each night and they take an item card out of a player's hand and place it face up on the table. When they do that, they can also swap it with one of their own item cards, and then the card that's on the table is not... It can't be played, can't be interacted with, and it's revealed to everybody. So let's go through an example of what this means. Let's say that the roles don't really matter for this one. So let's say we've got Monica here, Nagisa here, and Jotaro's Mana Beasts. Let's say that Monica has a G-Sick, Nagisa has a Buddha, and Jotaro has a Robo Justice. What Jotaro can do is pick Monica. The card comes out of her hand, is placed face up on the table, and now everyone else sees that Monica had a G-Sick in her hand. Monica can't use it, at least until the next day, because it goes back in her hand as everyone goes to sleep. But let's say that Jotaro picked Nagisa instead, and reveals the Amulet of Buddha. This is pretty big because it tells the Blackened that there's an Amulet of Buddha on the table, and if Jotaro wanted, he could even trade it with his own card. So now it's face up here, and it appears that Nagisa had a Robo Justice, and in reality, Jotaro has the Buddha, and he's definitely not using it because he doesn't want the Blackened's attack to get redirected.
So yes, the Mono Beast is quite a fun role. They reveal on death like a lot of the others. And what do we want to go with next? Probably Time Bomb?
Time Bomb is okay. I'll let you do Time Bomb.
Alright, actually, do you mind doing Time Bomb? I'm still not too familiar with it.
Okay.
I've not played.
Yeah, after this one, we'll go through one that you can do.
Alrighty.
So, let's say Jotaro's Time Bomb. Time Bomb, when you die, reveal this card and draw item cards equal to the number of days on the day counter. You can pass one of your item cards to a player, or you can play one of your item cards face down and then flip it face up when the time period allows the card to be played. So basically, you can play cards when you're dead, and they're useful in dying later on in the game because more days have passed. But let's, as an example, put 3 cards here. Let's say it's day 3 when Time Bomb is killed. Let's say they got punished in the class trial. They're going to draw these 3 cards, and they're going to say, they're going to look at this and say, well, I don't want to pass any of these to anybody, but I want to keep this to myself and play it face down. Since they were punished in the trial, everyone's going to see that this face down card is on the table, and they're going to wonder what it is. Because as soon as it's available to be played, it's going to flip face up and be played. So let's say the game continues, and they're in the next class trial now, and then boom, Despair Bat gets played. This is very bad for Hope, because Despair Bats are powerful items for Despairs, but they usually come at the price of everyone getting pissed at you and voting you out. The fact that Time Bomb played it, and they can't vote for him because he's already dead, Despair might not know who to vote for, and they have no discussion time to talk about it.
Alrighty, so that's the Time Bomb. I'm going to talk about the Hypnotist, the counter to the Therapist. So similar to the Hypnotist, they get a little icon, and going back to our player dice... Oh, sorry, real quick, let me read over it. The headmaster is going to randomly roll this dice to decide who it is, but the only difference here is that that you can choose another player. So let's say you think that Kodako thinks that Monster might be the Blackened. Well, she can say, well, I don't want him to get this. So, well, when this is rolled, if it lands on red, then it means that, well, he's safe from it. So, in this case, green, Monica, is now hypnotized.
Right, and
so
that means that they cannot draw or pass item cards.
Yep, and this action, like the Therapist, continues when they're dead. The Hypnotist does not reveal on death, and of course, yes, it is. So it is a fun role. It's not used very often, but it is similar to the Monocub Master, as it restricts. Or no, it doesn't. It does restrict, but not your items. It restricts the ability to draw and pass.
Right. In a game where items are a huge deal in this game, so being able to restrict that as a despair is pretty powerful.
All right. I think we should probably talk about this lady here.
That's a fun one, yeah.
So, Junko's host is similar to the roles that want to die, but this role probably falls under the line of insurance.
So right, and then we have two versions of this, one that appears on Hope, one that appears on Despair. We actually run as standard the one that appears on Hope. It's the only Despair showing that shows Hope, because if you have too many of these, it's easier for the alter ego to find who the actual Blackened is. You may get to the final trial and think that someone's on Hope, but they're actually on Despair. That's where the benefit is.
Alrighty. So, the way that this works is, like I said, it's similar to the roles that want to die, but it acts more as insurance. So, this role only reveals when they are killed by the Blackened. So, similar to the Stepping Stone and to the Reserve Course, they only reveal upon their death. The Blackened still gets a point, but the difference here is that you are now revived. So, Monica doesn't get Monica's ability anymore. She gets Miss Junko Enoshima well, now it's on top of it.
Well, now it's perfect,
Junko. Yeah, now it's Big Sis Junko in the front page, who has her who is her. So you are now Junko Enoshima, and unlike most dead people, you're revived in this case, but you get the ability to play item cards. You could be investigated still, but there's no real reason to, as people would know you're Junko's host. You can't be attacked, I don't believe, but your ability to spare lets you discard a hit card from someone's hand. So maybe Jotaro discards a card, and then you draw a card. So the entire point of this is, we've talked a lot about team killing, is the Junko's host is kind of like a helpful. Excuse me, Monokuma is getting a bit tongue-tied. Can bears even get tongue-tied? That's a great question. Moving on. So, the entire thing of this is insurance, like I said. So we talked about team killing before, and the Junko's host is basically a way of saying, like, yeah, the Blackened's kind of messed up by hitting one of their despairs, but it happens regardless. But to help ease the blow a bit, they have another kind of dead person. Well, not another dead person, but a dead person who's able to help them. So in a case like, maybe Kodako is forced to discard an Amulet of Buddha, and then Junko draws a Despair Bat. Similar to the Time Bomb, Junko can just play this Despair Bat without any real consequences, because she's treated as she's dead and she can't be voted for.
Right. Yeah, that's the entire deal. You've accidentally team killed, but you team killed a person who can help you even though they're dead. Now, keep in mind that it is a very risky and maybe even bad play to intentionally try to get the Blackened to kill you, even though that means your ability goes off and you do fun stuff. I leave it up to your discretion. There have been some games that were won because they drew into good items because of this, but that is kind of depending on RNG.
Also, with this comes the Junko Detector, which is similar to the Emperor's Song and the other investigation items, where it's just a yes or no, asking for if the person they're looking for is the Junko. Pretty simple there. Mm-hmm. Junko's House is one of my favorite Despair roles. I think it's very fun, but something to keep in mind is why it's not necessarily a death case. Is it's almost always better for Despair to have the ability to have an extra vote, to have someone there to argue.
Right. Again, if you are depending on Junko's host intentionally getting killed, you're depending on the game giving you good items and taking items away from Hope.
Alrighty. I think it's time to talk about the Remnants of Despair.
This is a fun one.
This is a very fun one.
So this role card has a lot of interaction with the alter ego. What they do is each night they will put a remnant mark on a player, and what a remnant mark means is that the alter ego can't investigate somebody who has it. So let's say that Monica's got one, and Nagisa's Nagisa's
He's
our
our
smart
smart
cookie, yeah.
We
He's
can't
the
let him.
ego.
We can't let him be corrupted by despair.
Right. Alright. So let's say he wanted to investigate Monica Night Zero because Monica was making some bold claims or looked a little suspicious. If the Remnants of Despair puts the token on her, then Nagisa has to pick somebody else. Now, another thing that Monica can do is Remnant marks can be destroyed by discarding one item card. And in the morning, everyone sees that Monica has a Remnant mark, and they might question her about it. They might say, well, destroy it because we want the alter ego to investigate you. Monica could do it as a show of good faith, or she could make the argument of, well, I have an important item that I don't want to get rid of, or maybe she doesn't even have any cards at all. So that means that she couldn't possibly get rid of it, and that's a good quote-unquote reason for keeping the mark, to hide her true allegiance.
Something to keep in mind is the Remnants of Despair can also put a mark on themselves, and when the Remnants of Despair is played, we have 3 special items that are related to this. So we have Junko's Portrait, which destroys 1 Remnant mark. So when this is played, maybe in the case of Monica, Monica gets her Remnant token, removed. The thing about this is that for that night, the cannot place a token, so
Oh, right, yeah. Anytime a token gets destroyed or removed from somebody, the Remnants of Despair can't just put another one on them because that means they could never get investigated.
Yes, and this item goes along with that theme too. So basically, if Monica's refusing to get rid of this token here, and Nagisa's like, I'm getting real tired of your crap, man. That card basically, this card here could be played on Monica to say, all right, now you really don't get it. Now you're really not going to be getting a Remnant mark, and you're going to get investigated there. So that's how that works. So similar with that line of ideology, we have the autograph. So how this works is you move 1 Remnant mark from one player from one player of your choice to yourself. Tonight, the Remnants of Despair cannot place that marker. So this is kind of like the portrait, except you're pulling it onto yourself. And I'm gonna let Pulla. Well, actually, no, I can explain it. So let's say it's a case that maybe Nagisa already has a. Oh, I need to stop doing that. Where Nagisa already has a Remnant token on him. Well, now he has 2. So what this means is now he's double Remnant marked. He would have to discard 2 cards in order to get rid of both of them. As long as he has one of them, the alter ego can't check him, but he is the alter ego in this case, so it's all right. He could, he could use something like. Oh, I did not mean to do that.
Here, I'll put it back on top.
I was shaking it and it shuffled, but yeah, discarding 2 cards would destroy it. Using something like Junko's, Junko's Portrait would destroy 1. And so yeah, they do stack. I don't think Remnants of Despair can put several markers on one person at a time. Like they can't actively go and put a third onto.
Well, the card doesn't say that, but also there's no point in putting multiple on a person.
Yeah, that's pretty useless to do anyways, unless you just really want to get rid of the items in their hands. But it's better to use your roll to prevent investigations. So the final card we have here is the 8x10 Glossy. So this is kind of an interesting one because I would say this falls maybe on more on the line of Despair, because as Remnants of Despair, you want to try and protect your fellow despairs by guessing and putting the markers on them. And this card lets everyone who has a marker just draw one, so it's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. Maybe if it's a situation where like Monica has a token but she has no cards whatsoever that she can play, or she's just trying to keep one of those items, well, now the question is, if this is played and now she gets an item, she's like, well, now either you at least have one item that you can use to get rid of this remnant marker, why aren't you doing that?
Yep. And then the argument could be, again, it's an item that I don't want to get rid of.
But that's
whether people believe you or not, you'd have to make that argument.
So yeah, that's Remnants of Despair. Very fun roll. Usually, I would say it's bigger games. I enjoy it a lot. All right. I think I can do. Do you want to do Mastermind or Dangan?
I'll do Team Danganronpa. useful or not as useful depending on what the current role setup is, but they get a benefit when they die. They reveal and they choose a despair-sided roll card which was not used in the current game setup. And then they wake up each night and they do that despair roll's actions. So let's say they die and in the game Dice Agent wasn't used. So they become a Dice Agent that continues using those actions even though they're dead. Or they can become like the
Remnants of Despair.
Remnants of Despair. Glitched Ego, not really useful because you can't talk. So
Same with or Mole.
Right, yeah. So it depends on what the setup is, but it could be very powerful in certain situations. Again, it's a situation kind of like the Junko's Host where you don't really want to die, but if you're doing things in trials to get you voted out, you could go that route.
So on the opposite end of the spectrum for our master program, we have the Outside World of Horrors. This is probably one of my least favorite roles. It's not very common because it is very hurting. So this is similar to the master program where they cannot put this. Oh no, you can put this on yourself. Actually, this is a souped. I don't know if souped up's the right term, but basically what it does is you, like the master program, at night you get to slap this deck onto someone, and in the morning it flips. So there's 4 different effects here, and they can all reoccur sometimes. So at first we have Panic. You cannot control yourself, and you must play at least 1 item card from your hand today if you're unable to. We have Trauma. You are too traumatized. You cannot speak or signal in any way today unless you discard at least 1 item. We have Hopelessness. You don't see the point of going on. You cannot play any items or use abilities today. This includes permanent abilities. So if you have a permanent ability, it's just shut down for the day. And if you have Cowardice, the final one, maybe if you bribe the mastermind, they'll let you go. You discard all of your item cards. So this one is interesting. They reveal on death. The issue with why this one is not run as often, I would say, is because it's very easy to go and apply these effects to to some of your other despair-sided members, which pretty cripples what they have, as item draw could potentially decide, or not item draw, but some items could potentially decide who wins and loses a game.
Right. If you are good at picking out hope people and putting it on them, you could get some use out of this. There also are some situations where you could, for example, force a despair player to play a despair bat because of the panic. People might feel a little bit sorry for you, thinking that you were forced to do that, but in the end that still helps you out. They might be a little bit more hesitant to vote for you.
So yeah, overall pretty similar, but so it's more despair-sided master program that hurts people instead of helping. But it's definitely a fun one. You want to go ahead and do the mastermind, and then we'll wrap it up with everyone's favorite?
Yep. Mastermind. Put these over here. Okay. So this is kind of the analog to the Stranger, where the Stranger is something that the Blackened doesn't want to attack. The Mastermind is a card that the Alter Ego doesn't want to investigate. If they're investigated by the Alter Ego, the Headmaster will say the Mastermind has appeared, and then the Mastermind will wake up after the Alter Ego has gone back to sleep, and they'll discard 2 cards from any player hands in any way that they like. So it's the combination 2 from 1 person or 1 from 2 people. But the big thing is, for the next day, the Alter Ego will be completely stunned. They can't use skills, items, abilities. They can't even talk or signal. So let's say that Nagisa investigated Hiyoko, who was the Mastermind. The Mastermind appears, and then in the morning, he's got this state on his card that reads that he's stunned. One thing that you can do to react to this is, well, Despair definitely wants to take note of this because they can figure out who the Alter Ego is this way. Let's say that Nagisa in the morning is not doing anything, not playing items, not speaking, not being helpful in any way. This would suggest that he's the Alter Ego. As a response to this, other hope-sided players can do the same thing, because they all know that the Mastermind appeared last night. Let's say that Kotoko's doing the same thing. This makes it so that the Blackened has a harder time telling who's the actual Alter Ego. And then another thing that can happen is, let's say Monaco wants to do it too. So now, potential alter egos are these three here. It all depends on the situation. Despairs definitely want the alter ego to be outed because then they can be killed. Hopes want the alter ego to be safe.
All right, and now we will go on to not our final role, but the one we discussed before we start talking about what diseases are. So we have the Ball Monokuma. The Ball Monokuma is everyone's generally favorite funny role because funny round spear bear is funny, and they reveal on their death. And every single night they wake up and draw 3 item cards, and they can ignore any of their effects at this time. They can discard as many of them as you'd like and return any of them into the item deck. He can choose to shuffle them. So this card has the ability to be offensive with item draw, as you could like put item cards like the Black Croissant or Tumbleweed or useless things towards the top, or maybe even put some despair-sided rolls up towards the top. But the important thing is that you could potentially stop powerful items that are hope-sided from showing up. So, in a situation where like you draw a Hope Shard, 2 Hope Shards, and a Robo Justice, while Monica, the Ball, may just want to say, okay, all of these are going to be discarded because these would actively be helping Hope.
Mm-hmm. And then you can put despair-sided items on top. Let's say in this example you drew 2 Hope Shards and the Despair Bat. You can get rid of all the Hope Shards and put the Despair Bat on top so that there's a good chance that one of your buddies draws it. It's all about stacking the deck with this card. They have a very interesting interplay with Tagami VIP, because Tagami VIP gives cards and Ball Monokuma stacks the deck. There is a chance that they might not do anything, though, so let's say they drew all Hope-sided cards. They just get rid of them and shuffle the deck, and they don't know what else is on the deck after that. So there is a little bit of luck involved.
Alrighty, that wraps up most of the main non-disease based hope side and despair neutral rolls for it. So now we're gonna go ahead and go over our disease stuff, and then we'll wrap up by talking about some general stuff and talking about what this funny little deck is over here. So the two main what despair diseases are is that every one of the game starts with one of these cards right here, which says disease is in the air. What this means is nothing's happening yet, but so a big part of these is that they have the unique ability of they change. With auto infect on, every single night a random disease will be given out. And so this one right here, fear disease, means if Jotaro has fear disease and Monica says, well, hey, you're the Blackened. Well, now Jotaro doesn't have a choice. He says, well, yeah, I am the Blackened. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm afraid. These tend to be more role play sided things. Some of them do have like bigger effects. I'm trying to find some, like, you can't use your abilities today. You draw a card, but then there's the dreadful state 26, the despair disease. This is probably one of the most controversial things about diseases, I would say, in the game, as it actively could turn an alter ego, our beloved smart cookie alter ego Nagisa, onto the side of despair, which is pretty unfair in some cases. Some GMs
it's loads of fun for the alter ego.
Yeah, because they get to lie, but
right.
Some will re-roll it, but if despair is getting their butts kicked, they might keep it around.
It is up to your discretion as the headmaster. If you think it would be fun to keep it in the current situation, maybe try keeping it.
So the hope-sided role that we have that comes with despair disease is the despair disease patient. So there are hope-sided role. They do not reveal on death, and they appear in despair side. So whenever the alter ego investigates, so let's say Kodako is our despair disease patient. Excuse me. And Nagisa investigates them. Well, out of all the randoms on the table, one of them will be selected to randomly be changed into the infected innocent. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You can keep it there.
Yeah, it's there. Fun. It's there. All right. So this is the infected innocent. Now they appear on despair, and they've caught a nasty case of infection. Every single night, they will get a new disease, which is pretty crazy. This role allows for similar situations with like lost students and new lost traveler or new students, where by the alter ego investigating them, investigating this hope showing despair, they get the information of hey, wait a minute, did anyone Kotoko's claiming despair disease patient. Did anyone turn into an infected innocent last night? And maybe Jotaro would say, oh, I did. And then maybe Nagase would be like, okay, then it's most likely that Kotoko is our despair disease patient.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind that like a lot of despair stuff, that despair could also do a similar thing between the two of them as well. So be on the rise for that. I'm going to let Polo go ahead and explain the nurse. Oh, wait, real quick, actually. There's also an investigation card for the despair disease patient, kind of like some of the other roles, like ultimate despair. So yeah, the secret of the Omoplata.
Yep. So
and
the
now
despair-sided nurse. This is a card which has a lot of interplay with diseases. What they do is they wake up each night, and if you're using despair diseases, one random person will have a random disease. Let's say it was Nagisa. And let's change his disease to something else. Okay, Lucky. This is actually a good example. Nagisa got the Lucky disease. That allows him to draw a card the next day. The nurse will see this. The disease will be revealed to them. And what they can do is they can choose to re-roll Nagisa's disease into something else, and now he's got innocent disease, so he has to claim to be a boring innocent. That's pretty bad on an alter ego. Or, if they are okay with Nagisa having that disease, they can pull someone else's disease out and give them another one. So, Masaru got impatient. He must play an item card today as soon as possible. Very unfortunate for him if he has a despair bat on the side of hope. So, Nurse can make good diseases go away and give a chance for bad ones, or make more diseases be on the table, which makes it harder to confirm despair disease patient.
So a couple of things that are usually used in conjunction with our despair disease are perfume cards. So we first have the despair berry disease, which is only used when diseases are, and both of these are only used for diseases. This randomly gives someone a disease. So in the case where maybe, Jotaro has the dreadful despair disease, and, maybe, if he has despair disease and no one else knows it, maybe our smart cookie Nagisa might be able to deduce that there's a possibility that he could be on the side of despair, as he's acting kind of fishy, or since he knows that Jotaro is an infected innocent, there's the potential fact that he could have despair disease. So this would just basically go and change the disease, and you do that by hovering over the disease card and pressing the R button. Oh, well, that just wrote it back to the first state.
Okay, so he's got innocent disease again. Works out for him because he's an innocent. Now, another thing that you can do with this perfume here, and this is the more common one, let's say that somebody is acting a little weird and they're soft claiming like they've got a disease. They could have this be played on them to publicly reveal their disease to everybody. And if it's a disease that wasn't revealed naturally, because some of them stay hidden and some of them don't, the person who played the perfume on them gets an item card as a reward.
If the disease says that keep this hidden, don't go and be like, don't try to maybe convince the whole table by saying like what your disease is, but try to role play that out. Like, let's see, impatient disease. No, I'm trying to find a role play one real quick.
Guilty disease. So everything is your fault. Disease. Claim to be on despair today. Now this.
Oh, I'm the Blackened. I'm the Monocub Master. I'm Ultimate Despair, even though Ultimate Despair isn't in the game. Things like that. Don't go and say that you're just guilty, but just push that.
The most fun way to play these cards is to, again, kind of roleplay them a little bit, act a little bit weird, and see if people pick up on it.
All right. So now,
are we going to briefly go under these?
Yeah, we'll go
over them. Yeah.
It can't go under there. Underwear.
Underwear.
Speaking of these are the Undie cards. These are the special notorious cards for being sometimes really crazy, like in cases of Maki's Undies, which lets you just name a card, and if anyone plays it, they just die. or more simpler ones like, Makoto's Undies, which just let you negate an attack. There's some more useless ones like Monami's Diaper, which doesn't let you get rid of it. Here, let me find that for you. If you want to go ahead and continue.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there's one that I want to pull out.
All right, I'll keep on going then. We also have more medium ones like Yasuke's Undies, which lets you choose to investigate for a traitor or not a traitor in Blackened, a traitor or an innocent. So there's a varying level of spice to these Undie cards, and then there's at the very, very, very end of absolute craziness, there is Junko's Despair, which is probably one of the most painful things to ever experience in this game, which is you must always use this instantly in the player die is rolled, and whoever it lands on instantly dies no matter what. And there is a class trial today, and the death goes to the Blackened's point count. So it is really powerful. So these due to the inherent nature of these cards, only 3 are used.
I would say even less than that sometimes.
Sometimes I think at most you see, if you aren't just using all of the Undies in the deck, you see probably like at max maybe 4 or 5, but usually it's like 1 through 3 or none. Some people just don't using none.
I would recommend at the most 3.
If you're newer to this game or new to hosting this game or playing with newer players, I would maybe recommend if you're using Undies, use more mild ones like Makoto's Undies.
Because they are special cards, and they, players do enjoy getting them because they're like special and shiny. But it can be too much of a good thing.
Yeah, how lost do you want to get within underwear?
Mm-hmm. And don't worry, the little ultimates have nightlights.
Yes, that is an important thing to know. There's no sick perverts here.
Is that it?
I think now that we have covered everything there is to know about roles, diseases, underwear, under there, the important bits. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. I'd like to thank Pula for making this beautiful, wonderful game for over 3 years and inviting me to come and help him do this video.
Well, I would like to thank you for coming and doing this video. Again, we had a little bit of a recording issue first time, but I feel like we were a little bit more organized this time.
I think so. I think I started doing things like getting the Undies ready. Bring out things like Amnesiac, Tagami VIP for better examples. But yeah, for everyone who was watching, thank you for joining us. We hope everyone had a good time listening to what we were saying, even if we may have gotten a bit confused or missed a couple things here and there, which we probably did, but that's all right. So we hope to see you in our Discord. The links in the description, I believe.
Yep.
We would love to play with you. We love new players.
And we love Danganronpa.
We love Danganronpa. If you recognize either of us, don't be afraid to say hello. We're pretty nice people. Everyone in the Discord is a pretty nice person. And we do more than just a Dangan Werewolf. We play some other games too here and there. So yeah, please come and come say hello. We would love to see you. And we hope you have so much fun with Dangan Werewolf and everything that it's come out to be.
Thank you very much, Drew, and thank you for watching. So long. Farewell.
Farewell.